Okay, on this air conditioning, we're back on this vehicle, this Honda Pilot that I just finished a previous video from. And I thought something was wrong, and I mentioned it in a previous video, and I discovered what was wrong. All right, remember I had doubts that there could be such a low or negative superheat. So here's our high, and here's our subcooling. Our subcooling is hitting 0. Sometimes it hits negative, sometimes it's a little positive. I said something's wrong. I measured it in by weight, but something is wrong. Even though it is a variable displacement compressor, for this vehicle, I don't like these Hondas because they don't cool very well all the time, but I still had a really bad hunch here. It said the subcooling is way too low. The superheat is way too high. But I measured it in precisely by weight. And it was 515 grams, but there was a mistake. I took a picture of a hood that was white. Well, this is a white car that was laying next to the vehicle. I said, where was the sticker? And I was pointed over there, and I said, oh, white hood? Okay, there's the sticker. I took a picture of the hood sticker for the refrigerant charge, but I did not read the name of the manufacturer on the hood of the sticker. It turned out to be a Mazda. I filled this, the proper refrigerant, YF refrigerant, but the 550 grams was wrong. And that was my hunch. The superheat and the subcooling told me that something was wrong. It just didn't add up. And I thought the suction line temperature was adding up a little bit on the high side. And did I do backwards again? I'm going to kick myself. No, I didn't. I'm good now. Told me it was wrong. The superheat and subcooling were just way too off for this Honda, even though Honda sucks. You hear me bashing Honda AC systems. So I went back, found out my mistake. I found a Toyota hood with the right amount. It should be 650 grams. So I'm 140 grams short on charge on the system. So let's look at the high side, the low side. There's your pressures. But look at our superheat and subcooling. And I got down to, my final resting spot was about 48 degrees out the dash on this vehicle. So now we're going to add in 140 grams to make up for 140 grams that I am short. So let's zero out. I'm glad I caught this mistake, and I caught it on camera, and which was even better because we get to document what a mistake looks like being short just 140 grams on a cold day. So we're there, we're zero, we're good. Okay, so now I'm going to add 140 grams. Now in this case, I'm going to throttle it in. High side is off. Liquid line is off. I'm going to, this is where my refrigerant is sitting in the refrigerant charge hose, the yellow hose. And this time I'm going to put it in the suction line, just a little bit at a time. I'm going to throttle it in. I'm going to meter it using the valve right here. And we're going to put in 140 grams. So let's give it a little squirt. Let's zero it out. And 1. That was 20 grams. That little boom was 20 grams. It just went in. That little squirt of liquid went in here. It vaporized and it got sucked into the low side. So let's do that again. Boom. There goes another 10 grams. I'm letting you see this live. Let's take a look up at this live. Let's make sure it's nice and zeroed in. Let's do a little bit more. Boom. That's 50 grams. Pay attention to the superheat and the subcooling. Let's see what they do with 140 grams difference. Let's do a little bit more. You see, I'm not chugging a ton of liquid refrigerant right into the suction line. By me just putting in a little bit at this point, by the time the liquid gets down this tube, it has expanded and flashed into a vapor. So only vapor is going down my suction line. Let's do it again. We're at 100 grams right now. We need 140. Now our subcooling has come up a little bit. I have to move the subcooling back down there, but at least it's not into that negative level. Now look at our superheat. We're at 50 on the superheat. We actually went up for a second. Let it all stabilize. Let's see where it stabilizes at. We're not there yet. By what you're taught in residential HVAC, the more refrigerant you put in, your superheat should come down and your subcooling should go up. There we go. We're almost there at 140. Right there, I stay right there. All right. As we can see, our subcooling definitely went up. Our superheat still looks naughty nasty for this particular vehicle. At these ambient temperatures, this is how this vehicle reacts to being 140 grams low. And I'm glad that clued me in, because it made me research more, because it didn't look right to me. And it's really hard to tell. Variable displacement compressors, especially in cold ambient temperatures, just don't jive. But that little 2 degree superheat clued me in that something was wrong. That's only 2 degrees. You go, oh, what's plus or minus 1 or 2 degrees? Superheat. That's no big deal. Look at how low our high side still is. We're at 87 PSI on the high side. How can you tell? Now go back and look at the last video and see where the high side was, being 140 grams low on refrigerant. Now we're up to factory specification of 665 grams, and still look at our high side pressure. Look at our superheat. Look at the subcooling. Did I just superheat? Look at our subcooling. Damn, I do that all the time. All right, I'm gonna let this stabilize out, and we're gonna come back and read this, and I'm gonna put it back from our last video. I'm gonna take the superheat line, right? This is taking subcooling. I'm gonna take the subcooling reading line, that's this liquid line right here, and I'm gonna put it after the internal heat exchanger, and we're gonna read it down there. Let's see where it's at. And it really looks, don't tell me I did this. No? Yeah, this is the liquid line, and I'm going to the liquid line, and the liquid line is 87 degrees, and this is the suction line, but it's so hot down there, there's so much radiant heat. That's what's messing me up. I have to shield that. There's so much radiant heat, it actually got the suction line temperature up higher. And this is why you have to know the limitation of your gains. There's an exhaust manifold down here about 7 to 8 inches away. And even though I have the sensor flipped to be on the back side of the pipe, the radiant heat is right here from this direction. But even though my sensor is touching on this side, away from that, there's so much heat, it's affecting my superheat. So let's see if I can insulate that. I'll be back on the next video after I put some rags around that and insulate it. You have to know the limitations, what's going to mess up your sensor readings.